Hello everyone, I see that you made it. I'm your host, Shady Davey D. LaFleur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Lair of LaFleur. That's right, back at it again this week. Part of the true scene here on YouTube, often imitated, never duplicated. On this week's episode, I searched the deepest and darkest corners of the inner and outer webs of TikTok and YouTube about these giant trees in the forest. What is really going on with this whole story of Devil's Tower? Before we get into that, I gotta stop right here and give a big shout to you, the viewers, because we are growing and gaining more subscribers right here on the LaFleur Network. That's all because of you, and I cannot express it enough how much I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Hitting that like button, subscribe, and share does help the channel grow. Thank you. As I slap you with this right here, now this is part of the show where I tell you grab all your survival gear, your rations, your flashlights, the batteries, and the bottled water, because we want you to be prepared when you enter the lair of LaFleur. But remember, this is only my opinion. You do the research, you be the judge. Don't let confirmation bias box you in. This is only for your entertainment purposes. Now I gotta give it over to the ghost of the lair with this week's episode.
Welcome to the lair. Parental advisory is recommended. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Enjoy the show. Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Is it nothing more than a national monument? Or could it be from a giant tree? You decide.
They are hiding this from us?
Exactly. Look at the old architecture in cities like Chicago or DC. Does it really look like it was built by people using horses and wooden buggies, hammers, manual saws, and basic pulleys? But look at the precision. Those 50-ton marble columns and intricate friezes. They require power tools and precision logistics.
And they claim they built these in just 2 or 3 years in the 1800s.
Exactly. It's logistically impossible. Now look at the cornerstones of some of these buildings. You'll see dates like I-850 or J-850 instead of 1850.
Wait, I or J, not a 1?
Right? Some researchers suggest the I stands for Isis, meaning year 850 of Jesus. It implies someone added 1,000 years to our timeline to hide a massive gap.
A gap? For what?
The Tartarian Empire. It's on every map before 1850, covering half the globe, a civilization with atmospheric energy tech that we've been taught to call ornamental architecture.
So we didn't build these cities?
We found them. We moved into the ruins after a global reset, slapped a 1 on the dates, and called it our own history. If we didn't build it, you have to ask, where did the original owners go?
Thank you for being this live premiere special about the giant trees in Devil's Tower. And I want to encourage you all, don't just view, join us all in this live chat. Devil's Tower, what do you think about this national monument? Do you believe the official narrative? Do you think this thing was created by a volcano? Yeah. Or do you think this is really made by silicon trees? I don't know. What do you think? This is all pretty overwhelming evidence that this used to be created by the silicon tree that used to exist in this realm.
Friend, and you find that friend is lying to you, then that upsets you. But that's a friend, so you try to forgive them, and you try to rationalize and think, well, maybe they just didn't understand. Then you catch them lying to you again. Well, now it's going, boy, I don't know. Third or fourth time they lie to you, they're no longer your friend, are they? Yeah, you just say, I don't want to have anything to do with that person. He's a liar. has got caught lie after lie after lie after lie, and still they come out and say something, and the news media just runs with it. It says that's the gospel. And then it takes 6 months, 6 years, 40 years for us to find out that it was all a big lie.
A landing site for UFOs, a mesa, whatever you want to believe. Did these trees, if they were trees, because I really do think they were trees, were they cut down by giants or simple humans that wanted to rewrite the history books? Yeah, crazy. What do you think?
Hold on a second. What if dinosaurs, which we know the name was created in the 1800s, before that they called them something else. What if the reason dinosaurs were so big, dinosaurs were real, they were giant reptiles. But what if the way they got to be giant was because the air was different thousands of years ago? Why would the air be different, you may ask? The giant trees. Devil's Tower. Did you know that there's an identical Devil's Tower looking structure, basalt columns they call it, in Antarctica? They're all over the place. The Tabletop Mountains in South America, the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, which is strange because it's a whole island of basalt column, which means that if it was, and it's flat, of course, on top. It's flat on top because of erosion. But here's the thing. What if the air was different? If the air was higher in oxygen, you know that you'd live longer, right? Didn't Noah live to 900 years? Someone said that reptiles don't stop growing. They never stop growing. And if they had enough oxygen, they would get gigantic. Dragonflies were gigantic. Is it because the atmosphere was higher in oxygen because there was giant trees? Think about that. Now, a lot of people ask, well, where'd the giant trees go? If they did cut them down, like Devil's Tower, if it is, like, where'd it go? I don't know. But I just have a hard time fathoming that magma formed hexagonal patterns all over this tree stump. When the last time I checked, go look at the photos of magma that's cooled in Hawaii, and it's like there's no pattern to it, okay? And that's the same hexagon structure you get in all trees, like all plants have that hexagon structure in their cells. So I'm postulating the idea that the reason there was giant reptiles and giant insects and people lived longer is because the air had more oxygen in it because of the giant trees. But here's the crazy part. Why did they cut the trees down? The story goes, have you ever read some of these fairy tales, dude? I'm talking Jack and the Beanstalk. Like, I found a book, 1960s children's book of Reader's Digest, the best fairy tales. Every one of them is talking about giants, and every one of them, the giants were unfortunate. They weren't like a friendly hippy-dippy giant that's a nice guy that lifts you up to get fruit off a tree. It was like brutal giants, David and Goliath style. Now, did you also know that when we know that the Native Americans would say, how? Do you know what that was about? How many fingers are on your hand? If you had 6 fingers, you were a descendant of Nephilim, and you were to be feared, and they didn't want to hang out with you. How was how many fingers? If you had 6, you were related to the Nephilim. We'll talk more about this in part 2.
Not a rock, but a tree. Arizona's petrified trees in Petrified Forest National Park are over 200 million years old. Minerals slowly replace the trees cell by cell, locking in bark, rings, and vibrant colors created by iron and copper. These trees grew when Arizona sat near the equator on the ancient supercontinent Pangaea.
Everyone knows how volcanoes erupts, congeals, and flows, right? So how can you believe this official narrative? All right, let's compare these two images that you see on your screen. On the left, we have Giants Causeway, hence the name Giants. And on the right, Devil's Tower. Now, do you believe the official narrative? Do you think this is born by a volcano? Or are these made from silicon? Someone please explain to me how lava just stops flowing and makes this fiber hexagonal pattern in midair. Yeah. Did this realm exist? I have to believe so. Because we know by now that history, nothing more than his story. And just like Wally right there, we're lost, searching. Because how many resets has there been? Show me the differences. Let's compare them. This week in the LaFleur Network News, they have already stopped the manufacturing of the penny. Now they're getting ready to redesign the dime. What is this really all about? Let's take you over to this week's in the news.
With the design of the new dime going forward. Do you notice anything missing? Notably missing from the eagle's talons are none other than the olive branch. Yeah, the U.S. Mint revealed that it is removing the olive branch from the dime. As the National Museum of American Diplomacy notes, and I quote, "The eagle always casts its gaze towards the olive branch, signifying that our nation desires to pursue peace but stands ready to defend itself." Founders literally spent 6 years perfecting the balance between peace and war on the Great Seal. You're erasing half of that equation, and I'm honestly surprised that they didn't replace the arrows with Tomahawk missiles. And if you didn't know, the 10-cent coin has had the same design since 1946, featuring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who died in 1945 on one side, and on the back, a torch with branches of olive and oak. The semi-quincentennial version of the dime instead features a determined liberty as the winds of revolution waft through her hair on the front, per the mint, and an eagle carrying arrows in its talons on the reverse. Dropping the olive branch from the dime isn't just a design choice, it's a cultural signal. Keep in mind, the olive branch has been part of the U.S. seal since 1782. If you can't somehow see that this nation is becoming a you-know-what ship, then I highly question your values.
Yeah, this is pretty in your face with the change of the symbols and do away with the physical money and usher in this digital currency. Now that's this week's in the news.
Trees so large, we've mistaken their remains for mountains. There's a theory that long before recorded history, Earth was covered in colossal trees, not forests as we know them, but towering structures that reached into the sky. And according to ancient texts, their destruction may have changed the world forever. One of the most controversial sources tied to this idea is the Book of Enoch. In this text, there are descriptions of a world that existed before a great flood. A world inhabited by giants, often referred to as the Nephilim, being said to be massive in size and immense in strength. Some interpretations claim these giants were sustained by enormous trees so vast they were described as reaching toward the heavens. The text goes on to describe a catastrophic event. The trees were cut down, the land was broken open, and water poured both from above and from below the earth. Supporters of the giant tree theory connect this description to a strange phenomenon we still observe today. When modern trees are cut down and their roots reach underground water systems, water can suddenly rush upward, sometimes violently. Now imagine that process scaled up, trees thousands of feet tall, root systems extending deep into the earth, and hundreds of these structures being destroyed at once.
And of course, when Hollywood gets involved, it all becomes evil. Then we name this thing Devil's Tower. Now let's all be scientists and do the math. Let's do the height. Or are you blind?
Which was a stump one day. Let's use the formula that I mentioned earlier. The diameter of our stump is 300 meters at the base. So if we calculate 300 over 20, we will get the height of, are you ready? 6 kilometers, 19,685 feet. Just think about it. Everything is learned in comparison. I think we can put a big fat...
Do you believe what she says? It's time to wake up. Is this a glitch in reality? It's not an illusion. Wake up!
Isn't a mountain. It's the biggest tree the Earth ever had. According to legend, it was once a massive world tree, a pathway giants used to travel between the sky and the land. When the gods came down, the giants fought back. Angry, the gods cut the tree straight in half. What was left was a giant stump slowly turned to stone over time, becoming what we see today. Scientists say it's just a volcanic neck, but look at those patterns, they look way too much like petrified wood. So what do you think? Just a natural wonder or evidence of ancient giants?
Now, if this is true, you would have to think that there'd be more oxygen in the atmosphere back in this time for this vegetation and plant life to grow, and not just that, animals as well. Humans, or human species, Nephilim, yeah, all that stuff. Let me know what you really think about this. Comment below.
Explains that the Nephilim giants were not the only unnatural beings that existed in ancient times. According to this text, fallen angels known as the Watchers descended to earth and began interfering with humanity in the natural order. There were 200 of these Watchers, and their actions were deliberate, not accidental. They did not simply disobey God by teaching forbidden knowledge. Their rebellion went further. They wanted to change creation itself. Their true goal was to alter what God had made and create something new. A new race, one that was neither fully human nor fully animal. Something unnatural and forbidden. To accomplish this, the fallen angels began corrupting both humans and animals through forbidden reproduction known as miscegenation. This involved unnatural crossbreeding through unlawful unions. The Book of Enoch describes how they selected humans, livestock, wild animals, and birds from every category of creation. This was not symbolic. It was physical. It was intentional. Through this process, the fallen angels attempted to rewrite God's design and establish their own version of life on earth. To a certain extent, they succeeded. The result of this corruption was the creation of many hybrid beings, not only the Nephilim giants, but also a wide range of monstrous creatures described as giants and monsters. These beings brought violence, fear, and moral decay across the earth. Humanity suffered greatly under their presence. The world became filled with bloodshed and corruption. This was not simply human sin. It was the corruption of creation itself. The Bible tells us that during the days of Noah, these non-human hybrid beings were terrorizing humanity. When we look back through history, we find similar beings described across different civilizations. In Greek mythology, centaurs are described as half-man and half-horse creatures born from unions between humans and spiritual entities. This origin story closely resembles the account found in the Book of Enoch. Sirens, often misunderstood today, were originally described as half-human and half-bird beings which aligns with the claim that the Watchers also corrupted birds as part of their experiments. Ancient Egypt provides even stronger parallels. Egyptian gods are frequently depicted as human-animal hybrids, with animal heads and human bodies. This raises a serious question. Were these figures purely symbolic, or were they representations of real beings that once existed? Since fallen angels desired worship and possessed advanced spiritual knowledge, it is possible they passed this knowledge to their hybrid offspring, making them appear godlike to ancient civilizations. After being cast out of heaven, these fallen angels and their creations may have been worshipped as gods on earth. According to the Book of Enoch in the Bible, the Great Flood was sent to cleanse the earth. The flood was not only about humanity, it was meant to remove the abominations that were never meant to exist. Most of these hybrid beings were destroyed. The fallen angels' plan was shattered. Their creations were reduced to ruin. Genesis 6:4 states that these hybrid beings existed before the flood and also after it, suggesting that some may have survived. This may explain why mysterious creatures, often called cryptids, continue to be reported around the world. Many of these beings share hybrid characteristics. One of the most famous examples is the Mothman, reportedly seen in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, during the 1960s, described as a winged humanoid with glowing red eyes. The Book of Enoch also explains that the spirits of the hybrid beings who were destroyed in the flood became what we now call demons. This may explain why demonic entities throughout history are often depicted as half-human and half-animal forms. These accounts force us to ask a difficult question. Were these stories simply myths or fragments of a truth that has been hidden over time?
On this planet longer than trees have, which means yes, there was a time when trees didn't exist. So what were some of these first trees? This, called Wadiza, also known as the world's first tree, that we know of. It got to about 30 feet tall and kind of looked like a palm. It used spores to reproduce rather than seeds, because seeds weren't a thing yet. And this, Archaeopteris, one of the first true trees with a classic woody trunk. Fossil evidence suggests they could get to 80 feet high, and also use spores to reproduce like Wadiza.
I'm not here to push any kind of disinformation, because we are living in crazy times here in 2026. It's only going to get crazier, and I just want you guys to be more aware and open your mind, because what really happened in the last reset? How many resets do you think there has been? And do you believe in what history says? Because it's nothing more than his story. Yeah, crazy.
That covered Earth 400 million years ago weren't plants, fungus, or animals. They were a completely unknown form of life. This is obviously insane. 407 million years ago, before trees even existed, the tallest things on land were actually these massive 26-foot pillars that look like smooth trunks. Scientists have actually been arguing about what they were since 1843, and some of them have said that it was giant fungus or ancient plants, but nobody's been able to figure it out.
Oh, honey, careful. Your boner. We'll start the tour by...
Until now. They were able to take a perfectly preserved fossil from 407 million years ago from a rock formation, they hit it with infrared light, they built 3D constructions of the insides, and then they ran it through AI to match its chemical fingerprint against every known living thing on Earth. And guess what? It matched nothing. And this is where it gets so weird, because they say that the inside of this thing had 3 completely different types of tubes woven together in patterns that don't exist in any known fungus, plant, or animal alive or extinct. The researchers on this entire project right now literally just straight up said that it belongs to an entirely extinct branch of complex life, not a different species, a different branch. We have been on this planet for 300,000 years, and we are still finding life that we didn't even know existed.
What happened to these giant ancient trees? It describes how these were cut down by the angels to flood the Nephilim giants reaching 4,500 feet tall. And I believe once these trees were fell, the waters rushed out from below as the waters poured from above. The same can be seen today in the smaller trees. When their roots hit the underground water lines and they're chopped down, they will start gushing water like water fountains. Now imagine that with trees that stretched to the heavens. It says there were about 200 of these trees. And in the many years of looking into this, I would say that's about an accurate number. Perhaps even more. Many are still left to be uncovered, buried right beneath the surface of what we just think are nothing but hills. There was a reason why the Book of Enoch, along with 14 other books, were conveniently removed from today's version of the Bible. It painted a far too accurate picture of the true nature and history of this realm. Question everything.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show, I do new episodes of The Lair each and every Sunday, or at least I try to. Do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on all your notifications. All that stuff does help the channel grow. Thank you.
You know how they say the eyes are useless when the mind is blind? Is your mind blind? Because you're looking at something right now which looks identical to the other thing, including the columns, the hexagonal cell structure, but yet they tell you the Devil's Tower is from magma. But when magma cools, it looks like a pile of hardened goo. Doesn't have hexagons. Why would they tell you that that comes from magma and not tell you the truth? Because then that would add credence to the Book of Enoch. Why don't they want you knowing about the Book of Enoch and it being true? Because it's scripture. They don't want you believing in a higher power. Why don't they want you believing in a higher power? Because then you'll know how powerful you are. I think many of you have realized by now, but if not yet, we are in a spiritual war. Just saying, we are. Can you not see? Look around. Some of these crazy food ingredients, some of these crazy statements that are coming out of things that happen on places in the Caribbean. You know what I'm talking about. We are in the midst of a little bit of a spiritual battle here right now, 100%. And if you knew the truth about Devil's Tower, that it was an ancient tree, that God sent 200 angels down to chop them all down because he didn't want the giants climbing the trees to be able to survive the flood, because he wanted to get rid of the giants because they were eating people. I know, truth is stranger than fiction, but we're going to have to wake up to it sooner or later, because you know it was this, right? Trees that reach the heavens. Do they not want you knowing that? Do they want you thinking the biggest tree is this freaking redwood? I know the redwoods are nice, but they're like little pieces of grass compared to these things, man. And by the way, the going theory is that they were not carbon-based, they were silica-based. So they were like a rock tree. Because carbon, trees don't turn into stone. Petrification, people think, is actually fake. It's not that it petrifies and turns into stone. It would decompose. It's that it was a different type of organism than we know today that is silica-based. Maybe it gave off different gases, which extended human lifespan, because we know Noah lived to 900 years old. Could you imagine walking around back then when everything was organic? Oh, man. I can't wait to remote view that. Or we'll bring it back.
Deception has been going on for 250 years, and it's man that has been carrying on Satan's legacy, guaranteeing Satan getting his full season, his little season. Between Cabbage Patch Kids and orphan trains, the whole mud flood theory, which pretty much isn't a theory anymore, it's proven fact. Has it become extremely hard to separate fact and fiction? 100%. Just the way Satan likes it. You see, he thrives on confusion and separation and division of God's children. These photos, they're not just entertainment, they're proof of Satan's work, of Satan's plan that has worked perfectly until now. The 250 years is about over, and good riddance. But it doesn't mean that we're out of the forest yet, boys and girls. No. Lots is coming. God bless. Good luck.
Explore evidence and ask the question, what if these great fires and catastrophic events that reshaped much of North America in the 19th and early 20th centuries were not merely accidents, but part of a sinister plan by the controlling elites to erase evidence of an advanced civilization and rewrite history? Before we examine the evidence, let's take a closer look at an invention that could turn stone towers into rubble and dust, the earthquake machine.
I am the world's famous flat earther. Do me a favor, hit that like button, turn on all your notifications, share, commenting, all that stuff does help the channel grow. Thank you.
A big secret. People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet.
Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
Makes sense. You decide. Then of course we have these images that NASA pumps out to us. Does this look play to you? Or is this balls in space?
Just if you had packed your cell phone and you said, which one?
When? Skylar, I was medicated. I mean, I could have said the world was flat.
And head over to the #1 truther source right here on YouTube, Jake the Awake, with his weekly live stream. Push him to 100K in 2026. Subscribe. Alright, that's all I got for you this week. I hope you enjoyed these videos. And at some time in your life, you have your own personal awakening, trying to find out what this place is. Or do you think we live in a ball spinning around at incredible speeds? Maybe it's CGI balls that you're into, or convinced by AI videos. Maybe we're all just trapped here in the Matrix. What is this beautiful, magical realm? I don't know, but join me here next week for an all-new episode. Peace out, guys. Much love.
See you next week.
He took a picture. Oh,